Bersatu's participation in Muafakat Nasional to finalise soon. Three-cornered fight in Slim by-election. Good afternoon, I'm Jessica Lee. Welcome to Updates at Noon. The participation of Parti Pribumi Bersatu Malaysia or Bersatu in Muafakat Nasional that will support Perikatan Nasional as a grand coalition will be finalised soon. Now, Parti President Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin said several discussions with the top leadership of parties within the Perikatan-led government had taken place, with several agreements achieved to strengthen the party's position within Perikatan.
Saya percaya inilah pilihan terbaik untuk bersatu. Kita memilih untuk berada dalam satu jemaah besar yang menghimpunkan parti-parti utama di negara kita. Dengan terbentuknya penyatuan antara Bersatu, UMNO, PAS dan parti-parti lain dalam Kerajaan Perikatan Nasional, maka sebahagian besar sokongan rakyat telah pun berada di pihak kita.
He said this in his special address in conjunction with the Sri Kandi, Armada and divisional meetings today. He said the cooperation will form political stability that will surely bring benefits of harmony, prosperity to all rakyat regardless of their religious groups or racial background. The Slim State by-election, which will be held on the 29th of August, will witness a three-cornered fight between Barisan Nasional BN candidate and two independent candidates. Now, Barisan Tanjung Malim UMNO Deputy Chief Muhammad Zaidi Aziz, 43, will face independents as Sentara Sekaran, 44, and lawyer Amir Kushari Muhammad Tanusi, 38, who is representing the yet-to-be-registered party Pejuang Tanah Air or Pejuang. The announcement on the list of candidates for the by-election was made by returning officer Shamsul Rizwan Idris at about 10:35 a.m. after the nomination process at Dewan Sri Tanjung Majlis Daerah Tanjung Malim closed at 10 a.m. The state seat fell vacant after Datuk Kusari Abdul Talib, 59, a four-term incumbent, died of a heart attack on the 15th of July. In the 14th general election, Datuk Kusari won with a 2,183 vote majority against Pasar Zulfadli Zainal and Parti Pribumi Bersatu Malaysia Muhammad Amran Ibrahim, who contested under the PKR flag. The Election Commission will apply and ensure that strict enforcement of COVID-19 preventive guidelines during the Slim State by-election. In a statement, EC Secretary Iqmaluddin Ishak said under the guidelines, voters who are at risk and do not clear the body temperature checks will still be allowed to vote in special tents, which are monitored by health officers. Now, he also said that persons under surveillance and persons under investigation have to apply for permission from the district health officer to go to the polling centres. Iqmaluddin said the guidelines will be enforced at all stages of the election process, from the briefings for staff, nomination of candidates and official counting of votes. He said the key issue was compliance to social distancing, wearing masks, using hand sanitizer liquids and body temperature checks. For today's nomination day, no candidate was allowed to organise processions with their supporters or hold group activities. Only the candidate, one proposer and one seconder were allowed into the nomination centre. Iqmaluddin said throughout the campaigning period, each candidate will be allowed to open up a committee room or a party operations room while abiding by the requirements for social distancing, wearing masks, body temperature checks and using hand sanitizer. During the political talks, the number of attendees cannot exceed 250 at any one time, while the place is subject to the size of the venue and permit obtained from the police. The EC secretary also explained that the EC will monitor all the candidates' activities during the campaign period with the help of 2 election campaign enforcement teams, including compliance with the special guidelines. The slim state seat by-election is being held following the death of incumbent Datuk Muhammad Kusari Abdul Talib, 59, on the 15th of July. Another COVID-19 cluster has been detected in Kedah in the Kuala Muda district, where a policeman became the first case. Health Director General Datuk Dr. Nur Hisham Abdullah, in a statement on COVID-19 updates, said the colleague of the index case became the second case and the source of the infection of this cluster is still being investigated. Following that, active case detection and close contact tracing were conducted on the 13th of August, and the case was confirmed positive on the 14th of August. As of yesterday, 124 of its close contacts have been screened. In a statement on COVID-19 updates yesterday, Datuk Dr. Nur Hisham said 2 were tested positive, 5 were negative, and 117 are still awaiting their results, adding that the cases in this cluster are all Malaysians. Active case detection was continuing, and preventive and containment measures like disinfection and sanitization had been conducted at identified locations. A total of 139 kindergartens and 3 childcare centres under the Community Development Department, or KEMAS, in 4 districts in Kedah have been temporarily closed following the spread of COVID-19 involving the Sivaganga cluster. Now, KEMAS Director General Dato' Muhammad Yasid Bidin said of the total, 121 kindergartens and 2 childcare centres are in Kubang Pasu, now 8 kindergartens and 2 childcare centres in Padang Terap, 1 kindergarten Kulim Bandar Baru and 5 kindergartens in Kuala Kedah.
Masa terdekat ini, operasi beberapa tadika di kawasan Kedah kita telah tutup dululah. Kita tutup di mana setakat ini sebanyak 139 tadika di negeri Kedah kita telah arahkan tutup dan melibatkan pelajar seramai 2,747 pelajar. 2,747 pelajar. Melibatkan kanak-kanak tadika dan juga taska lah. Jadi tujuan kita menutup tadika ini tak lain tak bukan adalah untuk kita, mana dia berperingkat berhati-hati lah. Kita bukan mengawal, kita maksudnya langkah awal lah, langkah awal pencegahan lah, untuk mengelakkan daripada dia menular pula kalau kita tak jaga kan.
Disinfection works have also been conducted in all kindergartens and childcare centres according to the standard operating procedures set by the government. He said this in a press conference after attending a program to appreciate KEMAS volunteers who have helped prepare personal protective equipment, or PPEs, in Seremban, Negeri Sembilan. The Department of Islamic Development of Malaysia, or JAKIM's Muassadah COVID-19 Fund, will cover the quarantine costs of 83 Malaysian students who returned from Yemen. The Minister in the Prime Minister's Department, Religious Affairs, Datuk Sri Dr. Zulkifli Muhammad Al-Bakri, said the financial aid was provided following the pleas from the students via the National Disaster Management Agency, or NADMA, that they could not afford to pay the quarantine costs at a hotel in Kuala Lumpur.
Hasil daripada kami mendapat maklumat berdasarkan surat dan rintihan kepada JAKIM dan mewakili daripada NADMA yang menceritakan kepada kami, maka kami sampaikan itu. Dan saya juga baru selesai pos kabinet pada sejam yang lepas, 20 minit yang lepas, dan memaklumkan bantuan ini kepada Yang Amat Berhormat Perdana Menteri, menteri-menteri di Jabatan Perdana Menteri, KSN dan juga sahabat-sahabat kita yang lain, yang kita akan bantu mereka.
He said this to reporters after presenting a contribution of about 157,000 ringgit to Impiana KLCC Hotel to cover the quarantine cost. According to Datuk Sri Dr. Zulkifli, all the students would complete their mandatory 14-day quarantine today. The Ministry of Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs, or KPDNHEP, busted a racket selling counterfeit rubber gloves using the Glove On Paloma brand in an operation in Sri Hartamas, Kuala Lumpur on Wednesday. KPDNHEP Enforcement Division Director Dato' Iskandar Halim Sulaiman, in a statement yesterday, said that the operation was carried out at a business premises after receiving a complaint from the brand's registered trademark owner. He said the modus operandi of the perpetrator was to buy used rubber gloves, which were then cleaned and repackaged using the Glove On Paloma brand. According to Dato' Iskandar Halim, the raid found a total of 840 boxes containing counterfeit rubber gloves and 8,280 empty Glove On Paloma boxes with an estimated value of 42,320 ringgit. The differences between the counterfeit rubber gloves and the genuine ones are in terms of quality, thickness, color, packaging, and printing on the packaging box. The case was being investigated under paragraph 102, subsection 1C of the Trademarks Act 2019 for possessing goods with a falsely applied trademark. Now, after 2 months of surveillance, the Immigration Department crippled a document forgery syndicate active in the Klang Valley with the arrest of several foreigners, including its mastermind recently. The department first mounted a raid on 9th of July at a house in Cheras, Selangor, used as a base for the activity, and arrested 2 Bangladeshi men and a Mongolian woman. That arrest led the department to another house dwelled by the mastermind, also a Bangladeshi man, at a house in Oklang Road in Selangor the next day. Immigration Director General Dato' Khairul Zaimi Daud, in a statement yesterday, said that the 39-year-old suspect has been residing in Malaysia on a temporary employment visit pass, or PLKS, for the past 10 years. The suspects were detained under Section 55D of the Immigrations Act 1959-63. Three friends were killed while another was injured when the car they were travelling in collided with a lorry carrying oil palm at kilometre 19 of Jalan Lipis Merapu in Padang Tengku Lipis, about 156 kilometres from Kuantan. Now, Lipis District Police Chief Superintendent Azli Muhammad Noor, in a statement yesterday, said the incident occurred at about 5:45 p.m. when the lorry driver, who was heading towards Kelantan from Kuala Lumpur, lost control of his vehicle and veered into the opposite lane. The 3 deceased were the car driver, Faizul Izafi Azmi, 34, and the 2 backseat passengers, namely Muhammad Rozwan Muhammad Yusof, 32, and his sister, Rozia, 22, all of whom were from Jeli, Kelantan. Another victim, Muhammad Zulhelmi Mustafa, 25, sustained serious injuries and was rushed to the Kuala Lipis hospital. Azli said a 29-year-old lorry driver and his conductor, 18, who were both from Kuala Krai, Kelantan, escaped unhurt. The bodies were sent to the Kuala Lipis hospital for post-mortem, and the case is being investigated under Section 41, subsection 1 of the Road Transport Act 1987. Bank Negara Malaysia to revise country's 2020 GDP forecast.
Experience the long-lasting power of Energizer. Energizer Ultimate Lithium is our long-lasting AA battery. Energizer, backed by science, powered by Energizer.
The Bank Negara Malaysia, or BNM, has revised down the country's 2020 gross domestic product, or GDP, forecast to negative 3.4 to negative 5.5%. Now, BNM Governor Datuk Nur Samsia Muhammad Yunus said the initial assumption was based on a movement control order period of only 4 weeks instead of 7 weeks.
And this was followed by the implementation of the CMCO and the RMCO. So while this was key in containing the outbreak, the extension of strictly enforced mobility restrictions had resulted in a larger than anticipated impact on economic output, as observed in the second quarter actual economic performance. So the decline in second quarter mainly reflects the sharp deterioration in economic activities in April.
As the economy continues to be operational, albeit gradually, Datuk Nur Samsia expect growth in the economic activities in the third quarter of the year. Following this, the economy was also expected to recover and post a growth of 5.5% to 8% in 2021. The Malaysian economy contracted 17.1% in the second quarter or Q2 of 2020 compared to the same period last year. Malaysia's chief statistician, Datuk Seri Muhammad Uzair Mahidin, said the worst double-digit quarterly contraction since 1998, or about 22 years, was following the unprecedented measures imposed to stem the spread of COVID-19. He said the services, manufacturing, mining and quarrying and construction sectors all dipped 16.2%, 18.3%, 20% and 44.5% respectively in the quarter. The agriculture sector, however, saw some respite with a growth of 1%.
On the demand side, domestic demand declined by 18.7%. due mainly to a weaker private sector expenditure. Private final consumption expenditure fell 18.5% from 6.7% in the first quarter 2020. The performance was due to decline of consumption on transport, restaurants, hotel and recreation services and culture. Meanwhile, consumption on essential needs such as food, non-alcoholic beverages and communication remain positive.
He said this during a live stream on the 2020 GDP performance yesterday. The first half of Gross Domestic Product, or GDP, comes to negative 8.3% as compared with 4.7% in the first half of last year. Still ahead, prominent Thai democracy activist arrested. The Home Ministry will seek information on the data of United Nations High Commission for Refugees, or UNHCR, card holders in the country from UNHCR and Wisma Putra. Its Minister, Datuk Seri Hamzah Zainuddin, said the data on the card holders were needed to enable the government to coordinate effort to ensure that everybody in the country has valid documents.
Saya akan memanggil mereka bersama dengan Wisma Putra untuk memastikan bahawa apa saja data yang ada dengan mereka itu hendaklah mereka serahkan kepada kita supaya dapat kita koordinatkan untuk menentukan segala siapa saja yang ada dalam negara kita ni mempunyai sesuatu dokumen yang sah. Sebab itu kita akan bekerjasama untuk memastikan ianya mengikut kehendak undang-undang yang ada dalam negara kita. Dia bukan undang-undang UNHCR tapi undang-undang dalam negara kita.
He said this after presenting the letter of appointment to Datuk Seri Akrosani Abdullah Sani as the Deputy Inspector General of Police. He was commenting on the allegation on the deluge in excess of over 85,000 Rohingyas in the country who possess a UNHCR card. Now, Thai police on Friday arrested a prominent democracy activist following his participation in protests calling for government reforms, a new constitution and an overhaul of a law shielding the powerful monarchy. Thailand has seen near daily demonstrations in recent weeks by student-led groups angry at the government of former military chief Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha. The arrest of Parit Chiwarak, broadcast live on Facebook by friends, saw police read out several charges against him before he was bundled into a waiting car, shouting, "Long live democracy." The detention of Chiwarak, also known as Penguin, is the third in a week after two other protesters were arrested last Friday on the same charges, which include sedition and breaking coronavirus regulations. They were subsequently released on bail. The protesters, partly inspired by the Hong Kong democracy movement, have tried to remain leaderless, relying on social media campaigns to spread news about their rallies. Hundreds also gathered at Chulalongkorn University at the pre-planned rally, many holding up hands in the three-fingered salute from the Hunger Games films. One of the main protest groups, Free Youth Movement, released a statement demanding authorities stop what it called the intimidation of political expression and inviting people to attend a rally on Sunday in Bangkok. Now, the words betrayal and division echoed throughout Gaza on Friday in the aftermath of the agreement that normalized ties between Israel and United Arab Emirates while eclipsing the Palestinian issue. On Thursday evening, shock waves shook the Middle East as US President Donald Trump the normalization agreement only third between the Jewish state and an Arab country after Egypt and Jordan. While Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was jubilant, Palestinians from the secular Fatah of Mahmoud Abbas to Hamas had only one word on their lips: betrayal. For the Palestinians, the UAE has sacrificed the Palestinian cause to gain commercial relations with Israel. For the past 13 years, the Palestinians have been split between Hamas, the rulers of Gaza, and the Palestinian Authority of Abbas, based in the West Bank. Late Thursday, Abbas and Hamas chief Ismail Haniyeh discussed ways to head off the planned normalization. The Palestinians have also called for emergency meetings of the Arab League and the Organization of the Islamic Conference to support their cause. Normalization would lead to Tel Aviv, Abu Dhabi flights enabling not only trade but also Emirati visits to Muslim religious sites in Jerusalem, as pointed out by Trump's special advisor Jared Kushner. Now, extremely hot weather conditions and wind brought on by the current heat wave have played a role in the recent wildfires that have sparked across Southern California. Massive clouds of smoke could be seen from areas in San Bernardino and Riverside counties as teams of firefighters fought to contain these fires while also attempting to save any homes and buildings nearby that are being threatened by the fires. Several wildfires are sending heavy smoke into Southern California skies. The lake fire, which erupted Wednesday near Castac, sent up a huge smoke plume that was visible across the region. Since then, brush fires have also broken out in Azusa and Corona. Crews scrambled to protect homes from the lake fire that prompted evacuations north of Los Angeles, as officials warned the blaze could flare up again in a blistering heat wave descending on California. The fire exploded in size within hours after it broke out in dense forest in the Angeles National Forest between Santa Clarita and Palmdale Wednesday afternoon, sending up a towering plume visible for hundreds of miles around. Flames from lake fire raised across ridges and steep slopes, including in some areas that hadn't burnt since 1968, according to fire officials. On Friday, it was threatening over 5,400 homes and spanned more than 11,600 acres with 12% containment. Coming up in sport, brutal Bayern beat Barcelona 8-2 in Champions League quarters. Stay with us. Bayern Munich humiliated Barcelona 8-2 in Friday's Champions League quarterfinal in Lisbon to set up a potential clash against Manchester City for a place in the final. Now, Thomas Müller and Philippe Coutinho both scored twice as the German double winners blew Barca away in a merciless display that will prompt serious questions over Lionel Messi's future in Spain. Bayern went ahead in the 4th minute as Müller scuffed a shot low past compatriot Marc-Andre ter Stegen. They, however, left themselves open at the back, and parity was restored when David Alaba, in attempting to stop a Jordi Alba cross, sliced the ball over Manuel Neuer and into his own net. But Bayern went back in front midway through the first half when Ivan Perisic fired past ter Stegen and into the far corner to restore the lead. That was the first of 3 goals in a 10-minute spell. Leon Goretzka's deft touch over the top took out Clement Lenglet, and Sergei Gnabry drilled home to make it 3-1. Then Müller stole in front of Clement Lenglet to turn in Joshua Kimmich's delivery from the right for 4-1. Luis Suarez pulled it back to 4-2 at one point in the second half, but Barcelona then caved in, with Kimmich getting Bayern's 5th before the 3 more goals in the final stages, 1 from the prolific Robert Lewandowski and 2 from substitute Coutinho. The win leaves Bayern a good bet to win this Champions League, although they will surely face a sterner test in the semi-final regardless of whether it is against Manchester City or Lyon. Now, Barcelona's embattled coach Quique Setién offered no indication that he would resign in the immediate aftermath on Friday's 8-2 Champions League humiliation at the hands of Bayern Munich, as club president Josep Maria Bartomeu promised to take decisions in the coming days. Defender Gerard Piqué called for sweeping changes at the Camp Nou in the wake of the defeat, the worst in Barcelona's distinguished European history. Setién was already under huge pressure despite only being appointed as the successor to Ernesto Valverde in January, with Barcelona having relinquished the Spanish title on his watch, finishing second to Real Madrid in La Liga. They were hoping to make up for a disappointing domestic campaign in the final 8 in Lisbon, but were instead utterly outclassed by Bayern at the Estadio da Luz. Speaking to Spanish television station Movistar Plus, Bartomeu said, "Now is not the time for decisions. It is time to apologize to the members, the Barcelona fans, because it was not a good day for them." Setién called the defeat tremendously painful and hinted that he knew what was coming. He said the credibility of a coach is diminished when something like this happens clearly. Now, Pep Guardiola warned Manchester City that the straight knockout format of the Champions League final stages in Lisbon means being favourites counts for little ahead of their quarter-final clash with Lyon on Saturday. Now, City can reach the last 4 for just the second time in the club's history, and the first since Guardiola arrived in Manchester 4 years ago, with victory over the French side, who finished 7th in the 2019-2020 League R season, which was cut short due to the coronavirus pandemic. But Lyon knocked out Juventus on away goals to make the last 8, and after suffering plenty of Champions League heartbreak with Barcelona, Bayern, Munich and City since he last lifted the trophy as Barca boss in 2011, Guardiola is wary of his side's tag as competition favourites.
Like we're used to play just one game. It's a final. The players play a lot of this kind of games. It's no second chance. It's in, out. You can back Manchester or stay here in Lisbon 4 more days. And that's what it is. So it's completely different. The approach is completely different.
And that's it from us this afternoon in our top story. Bersatu's participation in Muafakat Nasional to finalise soon. The news at 10 comes on this evening on My Free Views Berita RTM News channel. I'm Jessica Lee. Thank you for watching.